Hi everyone, it's Tamara here with another card making tutorial. This time I'm using the Sweet November Stamps Clear Stamp Fairwee Happy Birthday. I've put it already on a background of Copic XPress at Cardstock, and we'll be doing an ink blended background and then some Copic colouring of the images. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, I've already printed it onto some Copic XPress at cardstock. Now I did forget to also print off a mask, which I like to do at the same time so that it's an exact copy and I can just cut it out and it's exactly the same. So what I did instead was just grab out my masking paper, lay it over the top and actually just trace around the images. So it's not 100% perfect like it would be if I had printed it off, but it's still a very good mask that covered the image pretty well. So I just start at the base, like where a smaller section is, and then it's a lot easier then to attach it to the larger sections, and just make sure you give that a good press down. So I've grabbed out some Distress Oxides in Mustard Seed and Wild Honey. So Mustard Seed will be my lightest kind of yellowy colour around my image itself, and then I'll go in with the Wild Honey around the edges. I like to use these ink blending brushes when I'm ink blending onto Copic XPress it. I just find that sometimes with the dome sponge applicators, if you are going back and forth between colours, it can sometimes scuff up the cardstock because it is quite a smooth cardstock. Now I found that Wild Honey wasn't dark enough, so I've grabbed out my Spice Marmalade and I'm just darkening around that edge and then just working between the Wild Honey and Spice Marmalade. Now once that had dried, you can see that that actually really lightened quite a lot. So now I've grabbed out my carved pumpkin and I'm just going in with my domed sponge applicators because I won't be doing a lot of ink blending between the colors. I'm just kind of going dark around the edges and then just lightening my touch as I go closer into the center, just being really careful around that image. So sometimes you might just need to adjust your colors and just add extra colors as things dry, or to go with what you're wanting for your actual card to look like. So don't be afraid to change things up. Now we'll start with our Copic colouring. So I'm going to be doing her skin first, and I'm going to have all the colours up on the top left hand side as I colour, and then all of the colours will also be listed below in the description box if you'd like to refer to them. I did miss a little bit of where that candle would be throwing a little shadow on her face, so I'm kind of having everything kind of glowing off that candle. So all my shadows will be onto the left hand side and my lightest colors will be on the right hand side to kind of coincide with that candle burning. So now I'm just filling in with our final color, which is E000. And now that her skin is finished, I did now grab out a color. Y35 I thought went really well with the mustard seed background, so I'm just filling in a few areas that obviously I didn't cut with my mask, and you can see that has actually tied in really nicely with that ink blending, so you wouldn't even know that you missed those ink blending parts under the table and between her legs. So I did also forget to do her little ears, so I've quickly gone back in and colored that, and now we'll keep on coloring her hair. So I'm just using some light flicking motions, coming up and kind of keeping some areas ready for highlights. So obviously anything kind of coming up off the side will be a bit darker and getting lighter on the very top of her hair or very edge of her hair. So just now going through those colors, just slowly pulling out those colors as we go into that white cardstock. Just using those nice little flicking motions to get some nice looking strands of hair. Now we'll go in with our final color to just fill in, leaving some white to show that that's a nice shine to her hair as well. So we'll just finish that, and now we'll go and start coloring her beautiful dress. So I'm going to be doing a nice kind of hot pink color today. So I'll be using my RVs. So starting off, just adding my shadows with my RV02 to make sure I put them in all in the right spots. And then we'll go through the colors that we'll be using for this dress. So obviously in where those little dips of her dress are, and also underneath those pleats of her dress will be darker. So I've gone in with the RV19, Blending that out with the RV06, just slowly working up into where our highlights will be at the top of those little curves of her skirt. Then we've got the RV04, just using little flicking motions so we get a nice smooth blend. And we'll finish with that first colour again, which is the RV02. Now I did want to just give this a little bit more oomph, so I'm going back in with the same colours all over again, just kind of darkening up those shadow areas, also the shadow that would be thrown from the candle. And I'm just going to work through those colours again, and you can just see how much just going over a second time can sometimes just deepen up those shadows and just make your blend look much better. So just obviously work out once you've done your first blend whether you need to go in again. So now we'll just work up, and now our dress is done. I'm going to use the same colours for her shoes. So we've got the RV19, blending out for the RV06. The RV04 just leaving a nice little bright light on the top for her lighter colour, the RV02. Now with the candle, I'm going to be doing pink and white stripes. So again, just using the same colours that I used in her dress and shoes. So I started off with our shadows on the outer edges of the candle with the RV19, blending that out with the RV06. Leaving a nice little highlight in the middle for our lightest colour to go in, which is our RV02. So it just looks like there's a nice little shine on the top of that candle. Now obviously with white, I never leave it plain white. You want to put some shadowing in. So I always go with my trusty C markers, my C3, blend that out with my C1, and then blend that finally, making sure you leave enough white space that you've got that still white look, but still with the shadow. Now with the candle, we want it nice and kind of light where the hottest part of the flame is, and then going up into a kind of yellow red. So I'm just using some tip to tip with the YR04 and the Y02, just so that blends nicely together as you go down to the Y00. Now for her wings, I'm going to keep in with that yellowy orange color. So I'm using yellows to color her wings. So I still want them to be kind of light and looking kind of see-through, but just with that touch of yellow color to them. Now we'll color up our table. So we're wanting, obviously, the shadow is going to be thrown by the tablecloths, and obviously also down the legs as well, and on the bottom of that rung. So I'm trying to leave as much kind of white space there so that we can get our lightest color in. So we've got some nice different shading on our table. So I'm going out now with my lightest color, which is the E55, and blending that out to a final blend. Now I'm trying to keep this simple by using the same colors throughout. So I'm again using the same RV markers to do this bottom section of the tablecloth. I thought it goes well with that orange and also with the green that we'll have with the leaf part of the tablecloth as well. So I'm blending that RV19 with the RV06. Obviously you've got a nice shadow thrown by that leaf tablecloth over the top, and we'll blend out with our final RV02. Now this wasn't quite blending as I wanted it to. Obviously it is a little bit of a bigger space than what her dress is, so I do a little bit of tip to tip here. So you'll see me come in with the RV06, but then I do bring that RV19 and do a bit of tip to tip with the RV06 and RV19 together. Then I bring in the RV04, blend that out, and then I do a bit of tip to tip again using that RV02 to blend out the RV04, and then just slowly finish with that highlight of the RV02. Now with our little leaf, I'm going to make this green, so I'm going in with my darkest color to put my shadows that will be thrown from the cake. So I've got my BG99 and blending that out with my BG96. And then we'll blend that out again with the YG07, finishing, so that's obviously going to be in a bit of shadow behind her. And then we've got the YG05, and then finish now with the YG03. Now obviously there will be a little bit of that green leaf showing behind her wings here, so I'm just going in, just putting a little bit of green so that it looks like her wings are a little bit see-through. Now we'll color up our cake. I'm going to make this a nice, yummy, I love chocolate cake. So this is what I'm going to create for this one. So I'm going in with my lightest color to work out where all my shadows will be. And then we'll go in now with the darker color. So my darkest color will be E27. And I'm just obviously throwing the shadow over the left-hand side of the cake, and obviously will also be shadowed from where that frosting is coming down. Now I do need to buy a new E25 pen, so instead of using E25, I'm going to do a bit of tip to tip between the E27 and the E23, but you could just use the E25 in this if you've got that in your stash. So now I'm going in now again with that final lightest color, which was the E21, and I'm just going to keep working between that blend just to make sure we've got a nice smooth blend between those three colors. So we'll let that dry, and I will be adding a little bit of texture. So we'll do this icing, which again, keeping it simple, using the same pink as her dress and the tablecloth. So again, I just throw in my lightest color to work out where my shadows will be, because we do want some nice, because the frosting will be quite kind of wet looking, we want to make sure we've got a nice shine where the light will be reflected off that kind of wet surface. So I'm trying to leave as much white space as I go through my colors so that we can make sure we keep that white shine showing when we have finished all our coloring. So now that I've done the RVO6, I'm going in with the RVO4 to blend that out. Again, as you can see, I'm leaving that white space and just filling some of that in with the RVO2, but leaving a small amount of white space up the very top to throw that shadow. Again, like the dress, I just thought this needed a little bit extra oomph to create the differences between the colors. So I'm going back through all the colors again, just blending that out so we've got a really nice strong pink color. So we'll go in with our RVO4, blend that out, and then do our final pass over with the RVO2. So blend it out just with that nice light like sheen on the right hand side and at the very top of each of those layers. Now we'll bring in our E27 again and put some nice little texture to our cake. And then I'll also bring in the E23 to also blend that out and add a few extra texture pieces in the lighter section. So use the E27 in the darker and the E23 in the lighter. Now again with these like little flowers, I'm just going to use the RV19, RVO4 and RVO2. So I'm not worrying about the RVO6 for this because they are quite small. So I do still want that contrast of color. That's why I went with the darkest color and then the two lighter colors. So we'll just blend that out with the RVO2. Now with our blueberries, I'm only going to use two colors, and I'm going to put a little bit of shadow with the BVO8 on the left hand side of each of those blueberries, and only blend that out with BVO2, just leaving a slither of white cardstock on the right hand side so it looks like the light is shining off on those blueberries. Now with the plate, I'm going to keep white, so again I brought out those C markers and just adding a little bit of shadow. Now, as you can see, I am using some of my Copic markers just to kind of create a shadow under the table and our fairy, but obviously you've got to be very careful when doing this on ink blending. So I did give them a thorough clean once I finished this, but if you prefer not to kind of test that out, you can just use pencils or something to create that kind of shadow at the bottom. Now I have cut and scored a top folding pink note card, so I did use pink to match in with the pink that we have on our dress and our icing. And also with the ink blending, it did fade out that sentiment, but I've just grabbed out my Micron 05 pen and I'm just going to trace over that. So I just took my time as I did this, and obviously when you're tracing over something, it makes it quite easy to do, and it's actually most probably good for learning how to do different italics and things like that. So don't be afraid to go over the top, but you could just add a sentiment strip if you didn't want to do this. But I just thought with the black it just really made it pop, and it's just a single layer card. And this is the finished card for this tutorial. As you can see, some masking and a nice pop of ink blending colour on the background can really make this gorgeous little fairy and her beautiful cake pop. And with that lovely sentiments that come with this set, you can make a beautiful card for a friend, family member. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see any future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.